Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a Saturday evening episode of Ted's Booze Cellar with me, your most gracious host, Ted. Now, I'm sorry for not having done a lot of videos recently. There's been points in the last month or two where my mental health hasn't been great, and then also I've been getting the cold a couple of times in the last couple of months as well, so I didn't want to, put myself at any further risk of aggravating my condition, and I just thought that wouldn't really make for an entertaining episode of the show, so I've not been scaling back the episodes, so to speak, more so that it's just that in the last couple of months it's been hard to put the energy in to make them, just because for the time being my situation I've just been quite poorly recently anyway, so that's basically the gist of it. But today, because England are going to be playing later today in a World Cup quarter-final against France, I thought I'd take a look at something that's suitably English to mark the occasion. Now, I'm not expecting us to beat France. In fact, before this tournament, I said that I would be happy with England if we just reached the quarter-finals, which we have done. So, congratulations to the Three Lions. And congratulations as well, by the way, because as I'm recording this just now, it's 7 minutes past 5 on the 10th of December 2022, and I just watched Morocco beat Portugal 1-0 to become the first ever African team to reach the World Cup semi-finals. So, massive congratulations to the Atlas Lions there. Moroccans everywhere should be massively proud of their team. So, well done. And commiserations, of course, to Portugal as well. But we shall go on as we mean to go on. To mark the occasion of what could possibly be England's biggest and toughest test in years in terms of international football, we'll be taking a look at carling. Now, I've reviewed draft carling in the past, but I've never reviewed canned carling. Even if I may have done, it was so long ago now that it deserves a revisit, I do think. Carling is one of those beers that has somewhat of a meme reputation in the sense that it's seen as so basic and rubbish that really what's the point in drinking it? It's only really seen as something that you have at football stadiums or that you get to get drunk with, literally. I've only ever seen it on at the supermarkets. Even a 4-pack of this from Sainsbury's is only about I think it was about $3.80, $3.90, around that park anyway. So for pretty low grade 4% beer like this, that's pretty cheap. Just trying to double check if it is 4%. Yeah, it is 4% alcohol volume. Brewed in the UK by MCBC. It's brewed in Burton-on-Trent. So if you ever want to go see the origins of England's most highly exported beer, then you know where to go, to Burton. But quite frankly, why you would go there to begin with. So anyway, I will say, the one thing I've always liked about carling is the design of the can. This is actually generally a pretty handsome looking can. The mixture of crimson stripes with black and white is simplistic but actually pretty striking. So honestly, I'll give the can a good solid 8 out of 10. It's pretty corporate and there's not much else to say about it apart from the art design, but really honestly, it looks fine. Honestly, I can't really complain too much about that. But we'll have ourselves a quick snifter first to see what our first impressions are like. And by the way, I know some people in the past have mentioned that I should rather review drinks on the show when I pour them into a glass. Now, I'm going to try and enforce that rule a bit more in future episodes, but to be honest with you, this is carling, and I'm specifically reviewing the canned version, so just for this episode, I'm not going to pour it into a glass, because I want to experience it as it is in a can. Let's be honest, carling, that's all that really needs to be said. Anyway, have ourselves a quick first impression of a snifter. Doesn't really have any nose to speak of. There is a weird after smell actually. It's kind of like this fermented water kind of after smell. It's not particularly pleasant because generally I was going to say it's pretty bog standard 5 out of 10 smell, but the after smell just does leave a weird impression on you. So I'll give the aftertaste or the after smell and the nose in general a 4 out of 10. But we'll have ourselves a quick palate cleanser of water. And then on to the most important part of the video, which is to see what this sucker tastes like. So, to everyone at home, bottoms up. Come on, England. very substandard. It's not awful, I will say that, but the canned version definitely isn't as good as the draft version of Carling. The draft versions of beers are more often not the best versions of those specific beers, but I think that's just reinforced even more so here. There's a slight sort of like honeyish aftertaste, which is actually rather pleasant, but generally there's just like so little to talk about here. It's just one of the most like characterless beers, really. I will say it's nicer than Foster's. I remember I reviewed Draft Foster's years ago and I gave it a 6 out of 10, so I'm going to have to go back and re-review that because I cannot stand by that rating. I think I remember reviewing the draft version of Carling as being like a 5.5 out of 10. It was about average. This is slightly below average. This is sort of slight flatness to it. That's just not very nice, and the taste is so characterless that it's just like you kind of feel like, why am I drinking this other than to just get drunk? It's like it's just not really that pleasant of a drinking experience. The aftertaste is all right. That being said, so it's not like it's entirely bad, but it is definitely like about average or just below average. So I think I'm going to have to give this a 4.5 out of 10. Is it horrible? Kind of a little bit, but it's not like there's been beers that I've had that are similar to this but are much worse. So I think like a 4.5 out of 10 is probably about right. Probably leaning more towards a 4 if I'm going to be honest. So let's say between 4 to 4.5 out of 10 for canned Carling. I think that's probably about right. It's not a complete disaster, but it's definitely not that great, and it's definitely a bit substandard if I'm going to be honest. And if you're going to have any version of Carling, have it drafts. Like, just don't bother with canned. It's just, yeah, alright, it's cheap, but there's nicer beers out there for just only slightly more that are even stronger. So just go for something else. Go for an Amstel or Kronenbourg or anything. Just not Foster's though. But I've made that point well enough in the past. But yeah, I think 4 to a 4.5 out of 10 for canned Carling is about right. But if you guys have any future suggestions for future episodes of Ted's Booze Cellar, let me know in the comments section down below. And if you want to check out anything else I do online, I'll leave the links to all that in the video description down below. But as always, if you did like this video, leave a like, share and subscribe. And as always, have fun, stay safe for whatever you're doing, don't do anything I wouldn't do, wash your hands, drink responsibly, know your limits, and I'll see you guys at the bar next time on Ted's Booze Cellar. Oof.